It is 6:30 p.m. and I call to order the meeting of the January 7th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Committee. First order of business, we do have a quorum present, and I'm looking for approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Francesca, second by Aram. All in favor, please vote now. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Commissioners. Second order of business, we have some regular hearings to take care of. The first, a regular hearing, the Lewisville Corporate Center, Lot 2R, Block A, on 6.578 acres, zoned planned development, mixed use, PDMU, district located on the west side of I-35E frontage road, approximately 810 feet south of FM 407 Justin Road, being a replat of Lewisville Corporate Center, Lot 2, Block A, case number 241211-RP.
Good evening, Commissioners. Lewisville Development staff has reviewed this plat and found a list of deficiencies. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove this final plat for all the deficiencies listed and delegate to staff the ability to accept and approve it once all deficiencies have been corrected.
Thank you, Jonathan. Commissioners, questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to disapprove the final plat due to the deficiencies listed and delegate the staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once deficiencies are corrected.
Second.
Motion by Aram Ali, second by Ainsley. Vote now. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, regular hearing, Valley Ridge Industrial Park Addition, lots 1 and 2, Block A, on 26.8417 acres, zoned light industrial, LI district, located on the north side of Valley Ridge Boulevard, approximately 920 feet west of Mill Street, being a replat of Valley Ridge Business Park East Addition, lots 3, 4, and 5, Block B, case number 241212-RP.
Commissioners, Development staff has also reviewed this plat and found a list of deficiencies. Staff recommends that the P&Z disapprove this plat for all the deficiencies listed and delegate to staff the ability to accept and approve once all deficiencies have been addressed.
Thank you, Jonathan. Commissioners, questions, comment? Ready for a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion
Second.
by Jack, second by Francesca. Vote. Motion carries 6-0. Regular hearing, THD Stewart's Addition, lots 14R1 and 14R2, Block B, on .284 acres, zoned single-family residential, R5, district located at 106 Martin Street, being a replat of TDH Stewart's Addition, Lot 14, Block B, case 241213-RP.
Commissioners, staff has reviewed this plat and found a list of deficiencies. We recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove the plat and give staff the ability to approve once all the deficiencies have been corrected.
Thank you, Jonathan. Commissioners, questions, comments? Motion, please.
Motion to disapprove the final plat due to deficiencies and delegate to staff the authority to accept and approve the plat when the deficiencies are corrected.
Motion by Rick.
Second.
Second by Ainsley. Vote now. Motion carries 6-0. The next section are public hearing and a little bit of housekeeping here. We are going to hear number 6 before number 5, but we will do number 5 last. So, but it'll only take a little bit of time. Thank you. Number 6, public hearing, consideration of a special use permit for licensed massage therapy on approximately 1.1601 acres, legally described as Lot 2, Block A, Lewisville Plaza, Phase 2, located at 1010 Edmonds Lane, zoned Local Commercial District, LC, as requested by Yangwan Zhao Top Massage on behalf of J. Maharji, LLC, the property owner. Case number 240916, SUP.
Good evening, Commissioners. So I just wanted to state that we did hear this case already, but the applicant, there was a miscommunication about the meeting and they missed it, and so they withdrew the case so that they could reapply because they really wanted to be before the committee and speak. But tonight, actually, we're wanting to amend our recommended motion on this. We're going to recommend that the commission table this item or continue the public hearing until your next meeting, which is on January 21st. And the reason for that is there's some additional information that we are trying to get hold of that we believe is related to the case from the town of Flower Mound. And so that's why staff is recommending that we continue this item and continue the public hearing until January 21st, 2025. This is a public hearing though, and I know the applicant is here tonight, so we definitely do need to open the public hearing, but in lieu of closing it, staff's recommendation is that we keep it open and continue it until the 21st.
Thank you, Michelle. At this time, I will open the public hearing for this hearing, and anyone wishing to come forward and speak may. If you do, please state your name and address. Having no one come forward, I will close the public hearing.
We'll want to continue.
I'm sorry?
Do you mean to close the public hearing, or would you like to entertain a motion to continue it until the 21st?
We table it first. Okay, gotcha. I will open the public hearing again. Commissioners?
I move to table the item until the next meeting.
Second.
Motion by Jack, second by Francesca, that we table this motion until January 21st, 2025. Now vote, please. Thank you for correcting me. Motion carries 6-0. This item is tabled until January 21st. And now, another public hearing. Consideration of a recommendation for amendments to the Unified Development Code by amending Article 8, Uses, Parking Requirements, Supplemental Use Regulations, and certain distance requirements of Volume 2 of the Lewisville City Code, known as the Unified Development Code, by amending Chapter 7-3, Supplemental Use Regulations, Section 7.3.24, Manufacturing, Light Intensity Manufacturing, Medium Intensity Manufacturing, Heavy Intensity, and Warehouse Distribution Facility to provide additional standards, and amending Exhibits 7.2.3-4, non-residential zoning districts, to clarify applicability of the special use permits requirement for such uses in certain zoning districts. I have several things to hear on this. Thank you, Richard.
Good evening, Commissioners. The City Council had directed staff to prepare some amendments related to distribution warehouses and manufacturing in late 2024. In fact, the City Council on December the 9th approved the original supplemental standards for these uses. On December the 9th, 2024, those standards require a landscape buffer in certain situations, 50 feet with particular plantings and berms. And in addition to that, it also addresses the orientation of loading docks and screening of the open sides of truck courts. Like I said, that was adopted by the council on December 9th. So that is in place right now for just those 3 particular uses. What is before you tonight is an amendment to that, and it does add a new factor to these 3, or actually these 4 uses. It's the 3 intensities of manufacturing. So you have light, medium, and heavy intensity manufacturing and warehouse distribution facilities. What is proposed is the requirement of a special use permit if any of those 4 uses are new uses that fall under one of those 4 categories are developed within 500 feet of lesser intensity uses such as residential, retail, office, service uses. And again, that would only apply to either the expansion of an existing or redevelopment of a site or the development of a brand new facility. Particularly, the City Council had requested that this item be brought before you. It is scheduled for a second public hearing on January 27th before the City Council. And the primary concern is the redevelopment of existing sites that already have the lower intensity uses. So uses that have existing office and retail being tore down and redeveloped with these heavier intensity uses. In that scenario, that could create some conflicts between uses and incompatibility. And the SUP is a very good tool that the city can use to evaluate each proposal on a case-by-case basis to determine if there are any negative impacts, to determine if it is an appropriate use at that particular location, if there are any potential mitigating factors that might make it more compatible. So again, like I said, these are looked at on a case-by-case basis. All of these factors have to be considered. And again, this is for brand new facilities. It does not impact any existing, especially if there are not any plans to make any changes, then this ordinance would not impact those properties. City staff was required by the state of Texas to send out a notice to all properties that have any potential impact. So therefore, we over-noticed. We probably sent out more notices than we needed to, but we sent out approximately 2,500 notices. That notice had a very alarming wording that is mandated by the state of Texas that basically states, I can recite that, I believe in your packet you got a copy of the notice. It says the city of Lewisville is holding a hearing that will determine whether you may lose the right to continue using your property for its current use. Please read this notice carefully. So again, we did receive a large number of inquiries, well over 150 emails and phone calls. That doesn't even include walk-ins. That was as of 5:30 today. About 2/3 of the people that we did speak with are currently operating uses that are in that lower intensity category, but are permitted in light industrial. So the restaurants, the retail, the service type uses, the office uses. Again, those are not impacted. This ordinance only addresses distribution warehouse and the 3 levels of manufacturing. And again, the caveat there is the SUP kicks in for new development or redevelopment. It does not require existing development that has one of these 4 categories to do really anything. They can continue under our legal non-conforming use requirements as outlined in our Unified Development Code. So like I said, about 2/3 of the folks that we spoke with operate the lower intensity uses, but we did speak to about the other third was conversations with folks that currently operate or own distribution warehouses or some type of manufacturing. And again, we try to explain that really the uses that are already in place. If there are no changes to be made, they could be able to continue exactly as they are without really having to go through the SUP. It's only the expansion or redevelopment that would trigger that. We did get a lot of concerns expressed, though, about the potential of some buildings that have multiple tenants that may switch from distribution warehouse to manufacturing, or from manufacturing to distribution warehouse. That would require a new CO, and that is a change of use. And that change of use then defaults back to the use chart, and it does show that it would require a special use permit, especially only if they're within 500 feet of those lower intensity uses. So that could create some issues with some of these owners. It would really be a time impact as far as if it does trigger an SUP. The fastest that staff could probably process an SUP, because of all of the required state mandated notifications that we have to do, is probably about 6 weeks, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And that's usually on a very fast track. So what staff recommends is that the P&Z recommend approval of this, because the City Council is expecting to hold the second public hearing on the 27th. They had asked for this to move fairly quickly. And in the meantime, over the next couple of weeks, staff will be working internally to create some new language to add to the ordinance that addresses some of these concerns about existing uses, and try to avoid the need to, or the requirement of an SUP. Again, we'll have to work on that, work with our legal staff to come up with that, but we think that will address some of the issues that we have heard. We do want to thank everyone for showing up tonight and for contacting staff. And again, this is the first of 2 public hearings. So with that, I would be glad to answer any questions of the Planning and Zoning Commission before you open the public hearing.
Thank you, Richard. Commissioners, questions?
More of a clarification than a question. So if I'm understanding this correctly, these amendments are coming basically as a directive from council for what the 3 items they already approved, but they kind of felt like we needed some more language or something on the books to deal with the potential if there was going to be a tear down in a new use pop up. So kind of more safeguards to put in place to deal with new uses from new construction, not really worried about what's already there and operating.
That is correct.
But to add on to that, if I'm understanding that if there's a tenant that changes operations, they need a new certificate of occupancy, then that could be considered a new use as well, which could be an SUP.
If they switch from one use category to another,
so that could also fall into this
and that
SUP.
was really never the intent. So again, we will work to add some language to negate that from happening.
Okay.
But again, we'll need some time over the next couple of weeks to get that wording down. But we will present that to the City Council on the 27th.
So that wouldn't require another amendment?
Correct.
No, it's just more internal language that you guys need to clarify?
Yes.
Okay.
Ainsley, Jerem?
No, I think
Good to go?
I'm okay for now. Yeah.
I will open the public hearing, but when I open the public hearing, if you wish to speak, you may come forward. If you wish to have someone else speak for a group of people, that is okay also. And just state who you are speaking for. But before any of you speak, I have several things to read into the record. So it'll be just a bit while I read things into the record. So I open the public hearing, and the first thing I'm reading into the record is from Lance Kent, property owner of 600 Hembry Street, regarding the warehouse and manufacturing hearing, he voiced the opinion that the code change should not impact the smaller properties and should be required by a square foot threshold to limit the larger and more disruptive warehouse properties. Against that's from Lance Kent. Put that on the floor. The next was from Michael Coogan. Thanks for the information. Please see our below written message to explaining our strong opposition to the proposal. We have a serious concern regarding the proposed amendment to the UDC. Ultimately, the proposed amendment will guarantee incremental disinvestment and plunging property values as seen in other municipalities where these SUPs are used to effectively ban capital improvement at industrial properties. Owners and operators subject to these SUPs will be forced to continue to operate in inefficient, aging facilities under legal non-conforming uses, as they will be unable to sell for anything more than the tear down land value or modernize their facilities. Investors looking to develop best-in-class facilities cannot underwrite the risk associated with a subjective and opaque SUP process and will be excluded from the market, thus further depressing property values. The end result will be to create atrophying, blighted industrial districts that expand incrementally to alternate use adjacencies, trigger those SUPs in ever larger swaths of Lewisville industrial districts. High-quality businesses motivated to operate within the law and maintain good relationship with neighbors will move to higher quality facilities elsewhere, and you'll be left with the bottom of the barrel. These lowest cost operations are frequently unable and unwilling to comply with the law, and their behavior will exasperate rather than solve the issues associated with adjacency to industrial operations. While unpopular politically, the industrial facilities that provide last-mile distribution and light industrial services to local residents are an ever more critical component of the modern economy. The friction between these uses and more politically popular ones is a challenge that must be approached with a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer to ensure that these industrial uses are well maintained and efficient, as well as harmonious components to the local economy. The proposed amendment will do the opposite, and the ensuing widespread disinvestment and valuation degradation that will fail to produce the compatibility with other uses types the PZ staff memo indicated here. And he included some information from Steph. The next is from Murray Richardson. For purposes of providing input for the public record in regard to the proposed UDC modifications for industrial uses, as the managing partner of Pre-ICSIM Vista Ridge Properties LLC, I would like to provide the following comment. Pre-ICISM Vista Ridge Property LLC is the current owner of 2777 Vista Ridge Drive, which includes 23 acres and a 240,000 square foot office building, which is zoned light industrial. The cumulative effect of the proposed changes to the UDC referred to in Article 7, Chapter 3, Section 24, for most industrial uses will reduce the effective site size, increase the site and building development costs, and in most cases require the additional burden of obtaining a specific use permit, even if the proposed development complies with the requirements set forth in 7.3.24. This will have a material impact on the value of our property and constitutes a taking of existing property rights. Specific comments to subsection: the 500-foot range is excessive, 250 would be more adequate. The landscape strip of 50 feet is excessive, with 25 being more than adequate, and should be limited to adjacency to public streets and any adjacent property uses listed in section 7.2.4. The berm requirement is excessive. The landscape strip of 25 foot and the landscape improvements stipulated in items 2 and 3 are more than adequate to provide screening. The truck dock orientation as proposed will present material challenges in site planning options. Private streets and open space other than the reference to public parks should be removed from this requirement. The open side truck court screening wall should be no greater than 50 feet in length. Our request would be that the proposed changes to the UDC not be made at this time, and at a minimum, the suggestions we have made regarding the design requirements be considered, as well as removing the SUP requirements provided the development requirements are met. I appreciate the opportunity to provide these comments. Now I have a stack of names to read. The following people are in support of the amendment and do not wish to speak at this time, but wish to have their name read into the record. It's Josh Aline, Luther Bernstein, and Lance Kent, who I just read a note from. The following people are in opposition, and the names will be read into the record. Paul Bosco, Lucy Wang, Patricia White, Rama Kadiaki, I hope I did not butcher your name, Larry Rose, Pachi Guzik, Deanna Everett, Michael Mahoney, Jeff Traylor, Tommy Mann, Greg Smith, Andrew Bowman, Robert Allen, Alan Meyer, Larry Meyer, Bucky Gillette, George Wright, Henry Wright. Now, I have two from Henry for some reason, but that's okay. Chris Scar something, and I'm sorry I can't read the rest of it, but your name will be written into the record. I'll put that aside. Raymond Arroyo, Maria Corona, David Griffin, James Bullington, Ahmad Rashad, and David Prince. Thank you all. Of course, we appreciate every one of you who has appeared here tonight. It's important. We're glad to see you, and we wish to hear from you. At this point in time, if someone would like to speak, please come forward, state your name and address.
My name is James Bullington. I own a property at 855 North Mill Street. And all those letters that you read out, those are 100% true. You're going to kill business, small business in the city. Do you guys even understand small business? Or do any of you have a background in small business? Small business is the backbone of this country. We're the ones that keep you guys employed and keep the tax dollars in. And I'm very dismayed at the quality of counsel that's in this room right now. For the simple fact that you guys approved a 50-foot setback tells me y'all know nothing about business. You do realize that the land that we own in this city belongs to us. It's not city land. You don't have the right to take it from us so we can put stupid plants in it. In fact, if you guys go forward with this thing, then I suggest that we all of us business owners band together, get a court injunction, and stop you guys, and then immediately start the process to have all of you recalled because you're not fit to be in business, to be the city council of this city with your lack of business sense. And that's all I have to say, but I'm definitely not... Thank you. And one more thing. I'll sit back here and wait, and I'll give you guys my phone number. But if they're going to go forward with this, I'll lead the rest of us to get an attorney, file a court injunction. I'll put my money into an attorney to fight this. In past years, the city of Lewisville has sat in the gray area about being really stupid and really forthcoming, okay? I tried years ago to get them to develop one area over there into houses instead of apartments so that we would keep the businesses in this city surviving. The mall is devastated. Furniture businesses that have been in the city are not here anymore, and all because this city wants apartments, and those people that live in apartments are transient. They don't buy furniture. They don't eat that much in the restaurants, okay? They're here one day and gone the next. And this city, year after year, has just focused on getting as much property taxes and building apartments when they should have been building houses. This is the only city in the Metroplex that's been focused on apartments. No other city. First of all, I'm a real estate broker. I've been building and developing mostly in McKinney, but I've done business in Lewisville, Carrollton, Little Elm, Frisco, McKinney, and Denton. This is the dumbest council you guys are going to have to ever work with, okay? Now, I'm not kidding you. These people don't have any common sense. They don't have any business experience. They don't need to be here. We need to find business people, vote them out, put business people in place, and let's grow this city and make it prosperous. It has been prosperous at times. They're going to ruin it. They're going to do like those guys said in those letters. This is going to be a place that only poor people are going to set up business, and they're not going to take care of anything. But if we want classy business in here, we need to have these people either removed or start thinking differently. And like I said, I'll stay after the meeting. Anybody who wants to talk to me, like I said, I'll put my money in this thing. I'm ready to either get these guys out and get new people in or stop them in their tracks. Thank you.
Sir, before you start, I'm going to read one more name into the record, please. Another person in opposition is Hugh Bangerter, as I read that. Thank you. You may go ahead, sir.
My name is David Prince. I own Eagle Gun Range over on Valley Ridge. First, I'd like to thank you for taking your personal time away from your families to help serve this community. I appreciate it. It's not an easy job, but you do have my appreciation.
Thank you.
Whenever the postcard came out, the employee here stated it was pretty inflammatory, and I was concerned. I wish we could have gotten these questions and answers before we frequently asked questions before we got here. That was helpful. But I do have a little bit of concern whenever you see a government agency trying to cram something through really quick. I have concerns over that. So I would like to see this tabled for additional information so that the staff has time to answer a lot of these questions. Some of the concerns that you've read were they seem pretty reasonable. I just think the staff needs a little bit more time. So I'm asking you not to go ahead and vote on this. Let the city council wait a while. If they're that urgent for it, then I'm concerned. If they're trying to push through this thing so quickly, sets off bells, okay? So take your time, make good decisions. And again, thank you for taking your time away from your family to serve this community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Mann. Address is 500 Winstead Building in Dallas. I've been a practicing zoning and land use attorney since 2006 at Winstead. I'm here tonight representing my client, Transwestern Development Company, with concerns related to their specific project. I'd like to voice a few general remarks for you to consider and then provide you the example of my client's project, which is the impetus for my appearance here this evening. First of all, when the new state law that requires that notice to come out comes, it says what it says because it is accurate. Once a property is rendered legally non-conforming, the city then has the ability to terminate that use through a statutorily prescribed process that, yes, requires compensation to the business and property owners. However, the prospect of that, as you might imagine, becomes a massive deterrent to tenants extending leases, to lenders agreeing to refinances, to purchasers being interested in acquiring a property. Those ramifications are significant, and they can be meaningfully mitigated by changes to the language, which I heard staff say are needed, and that the intent of this is not to affect projects that exist or that are under development, and that they'll try to work on that language between now and the City Council. Our simple request would be that we not move forward until we have a chance to participate in the formulation of that language, review that language. You have the opportunity to review that language and make your recommendation to the City Council, which is your job, right? It doesn't feel like public input is that welcomed when the notices go out in a Christmas stocking in the middle of the holidays with a goal of completing the process in 6 weeks. We laud the intent. If the goal is to prevent office buildings from being retrofitted into manufacturing facilities because the office market has crashed, that's understandable, and there's lots of ways to draft this. This does a whole lot more than that, unfortunately, the way it's drafted. Take the example of my client's project. We went and obtained a site-specific plan development district at the end of 2023 for a 10-building distribution project with a capitalization of $300 million. We are under construction on the southern side. We have closed on the land on the northern side. To do that on a project of that scale requires agreements with lenders, investors, all of whom we have agreements and fiduciary duties to, who agreed to participate in the project based on our representation that no further discretionary approvals, meaning City Council approvals, were necessary for us to proceed. It was accurate when we represented that to them. If this is passed, that will become inaccurate. We will have to go represent to them that it has changed. And you can imagine the ramifications of that. I don't think that's the intention of this. That's one example of why we should probably revisit exactly how we're doing this and try to do it with more of a scalpel than an axe. Lastly, the notice that everyone did receive is required. There's an additional notice required by Chapter 211, which is to every property owner within 200 feet of the property being rezoned. It hasn't been indicated that that was provided. I don't know. If it wasn't, that would actually call into question whether it's appropriate to take action tonight anyway. All of the foregoing we think are good reasons to press pause for a minute, glean more input, see if we can't find a path forward that accomplishes your goal without negatively, accidentally impacting a lot of existing projects and businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Henry Wright, 1403 Seminole Drive, Richardson, Texas. I'm a developer, currently building a project here in Lewisville on Valley Ridge Boulevard, and it is light industrial. The SUP requirement that's proposed, I understand the staff's stance in wanting to protect some existing uses in certain parts of Lewisville, but the painting with the broad brush and putting that SUP requirement on every light industrial project, whether it is in a industrial zone or in a retail zone, is a really harsh response to what the actual goal is. The SUP requirement is a time-consuming process from my perspective when I evaluate sites. And additionally, from my tenants' perspectives, as they evaluate opportunities, the time component as businesses look to expand into our market here in Lewisville or have other opportunities in other cities. If we put more barriers in place, we are going to drive away good business. And it doesn't make good sense. And when we add risk and we add time to the process of doing business, it impacts the value of land, it impacts the value of the buildings that we're building and the businesses that we get. And so I think that I agree with some of the other comments that perhaps finding some different wording, maybe this SUP process could be an administrative process that doesn't require a planning and zoning hearing, that would cut down the time component of the process. But nonetheless, when a tenant or a developer hears the words, an SUP is required, if they're given other opportunities in the market nearby that do not require it, they will likely go there. It is easier to do business in those markets. And so that's a scary word for someone who doesn't understand what it means, but for someone who understands what it means and the reality of having to come before a public hearing in multiple ways and phases, and those can be very negative at times, it's something that people would rather not do. And so I would recommend that we find different language that achieves the goal, that maybe doesn't require an SUP, or if it has to, could that SUP be administrative? Again, this impacts the value of land. Vacant land is, with this amendment, will be less valuable, and it will not drive development in your city, which this isn't good for anybody from that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Hugh Bangeter. I'm not as well versed on all of this as some of these people are, but I am a landowner. I own a couple of commercial properties in Lewisville, 810 North Stemmons and 750 Valley Ridge Circle, which are automotive/light industrial. And I just have to say that I have been dismayed at how anti-business, particularly towards things like manufacturing and automotive, this city has been. I do not understand that. You can see I got all dressed up for you because I've been doing, guess what, manufacturing stuff all day long. And, you know, I have millions of dollars invested in this property. I have tenants that use some of it, I use some of it, and I have had ongoing issues with how the city wants to interfere. In the recent expansion of 35, this is just an example, the city somehow came up with a special proposition. I don't know what the terminology is, but certain properties, they were going to impose requirements to put in more trees and do that sort of thing. Well, when I came in and talked to the city about it, guess what they wanted to do? With the 3 parking places I had left in front of my building, they wanted me to take out the handicap parking spot and put in a tree. What the hell is going on here? I can't believe what nonsense goes on in here. Let's get real. We work hard, and we pay taxes. Give us a break, please.
Thank you, sir.
Jeff Traylor. I'll stand up a little more. Jeff Traylor, I'm from Bartonville. I've owned property here in Lewisville now over 20 years. My largest challenge with the city comes when you have to go before staff. Staff has a vision of what they want the city to be. That may be being handed down from the council, whoever it is at the time, but they have opinions. And a lot of times those opinions aren't reflected in code. An example I want to drive is that the piece of paper that we got, not the little thing, but the follow-up questions and answers, says that this is not a zoning ordinance change, yet it's an amendment to the zoning ordinance. When I have a building, so I have a cluster of 6, for example, and those 6 buildings, the tenants stay for a year, stay for 10 years, and then they change, they move out, new ones come in. The property is static. It's all concrete, nothing's being added, no buildings are being changed. The tenants are just moving in and out. It's an industrial area. It happens to be right across from the water treatment plant, which is, funny enough, one of my tenants was allowed to make ammunition there and explosives. Even though within 500 feet of that building, there are homes, yet they fit within that criteria. The gentleman stood up here and said, it would not affect me that this change will have no impact because the buildings aren't going to change, the structures aren't going to move. A tenant who makes screws may move out, and a guy who wants to store potatoes may move in. It's all good. But then as he moves along, he says, well, that's a change of use. Well, wait. Today, it doesn't matter if my use changes because it all fits within that light industrial category, right? So my guys can come in, go get a CO, make sure life and safety, do all of that. But once their change and his hopeful wording that he'll put in at some point between now and the city council gets it, would address this so that I only have to come before them and ask, can I have permission, please, to have a tenant that would have fit prior to this with no changes to the buildings or the landscapes, but I have to go to them for this. My concern here is clear. With my buildings the way that they are, if I don't change them, if I don't ask to put a tenant in it that's outside of the current zoning, because if I do that today, I have to get a special use. I live by that rule, I go forward with that rule. But in the future, given the way that they're going to do this, in the short time that they've gotten it, and obviously by his own comment, it has deficiencies currently. And on the other previous two people that came before us, they were denied by you because of, deficiencies. So at this point, it's clear. They're not going to leave us alone. They're going to come in and they're going to add this to it. And there's going to be some administrative piece that I will have to ask for. And depending on who I ask, they will give it to me or not. And then I'll have to push back and forward where I currently do not. I'm not asking you to say, hey, don't stop people from tearing down something and putting something up big and ugly. If that's what you want to do, all right, that's your choice. That you were appointed to this board to make these decisions. But I'm telling you, the vast majority of the people in this room have buildings, have businesses that will have tenants come in and go out, and the buildings will not change. And they will all function within the umbrella of light industrial or warehousing or whatever the categorization is that they're under. And they will create no problems for the city. With this change, you will create problems for us. You will create time, liability. And to get an SUP in this town is like giving birth to Jesus. I'm not lying to you. It's impossible. I have 22 seconds. I also want to thank you for your time. I've served on council in another small town. I know that a line of people standing in front of you sucks. But just remember, they're looking at it from a bureaucratic standpoint. Look at it from our standpoint. We just want to do business the way we're allowed to do business today, in exactly the same format that we're doing it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Rick Stino. I'm a resident of Lewisville. I'm an attorney outside counsel for Unarco Building Materials Handling here in Lewisville. They've had a plant here in Lewisville since apparently the 1970s. And I appreciate the comments from the gentleman here about clarifying the effects for existing uses, et cetera. That is helpful to my client. I did want to show you something that does cause myself and my client some concern, and it's out of the master plan update that was published by the city of Lewisville regarding future planning. It's part of the package of a number of materials that have been distributed by the city for future planning, and it shows my client's business gone. So on the one hand, there is an assertion that's not going to affect existing uses. If so, someone who made this thinks it's going to be gone sometime in the near future, which naturally is quite a concern, and that applies to other buildings in this this zone that of future planning that's being proposed. So it would certainly be helpful if there was some clarification on what the real intent is and what the long-term intent is when someone within the city of Lewisville is envisioning these businesses as being gone. So naturally, that's going to be of great concern. So some clarification on that would be super helpful. Again, thank you for your service. I've served on a board myself, not an easy job.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Bucky Gillette from McKinney, Texas. Currently we have a three-building project under construction here in the city of Lewisville, and we're proud of this project that is taking us a considerable amount of time to get through. We're moving the dirt. We have actually one buyer. It's 3 industrial buildings. And I can tell you that the reason that we're building here is because of the light industrial zoning in its current shape and form. It was very accommodating. It was something that it was very simple to present to our investors, our capital partners. It's about a $20 million project. We're heavily invested in it. And to see all of a sudden get blindsided by this, I don't understand the urgency that we need to get this done today. I'm sure council gave you directive. I'm not sure why. But why in the world is this thing so urgent that we have to get this approved today? There's better ways to achieve what your goals are and what council's goals are. But to try to limit uses and define them outside of the terms of light industrial is ludicrous, okay? If you want to take the word intensity, for example, which is used 3 times, the only intensity is in this room, okay? You cannot talk to users about, are you medium intensity, heavy intensity? I'm like, are you kidding? This is crazy. I'm from California originally. I escaped 10 years ago. I can tell you, that's crazy. This is crazy just like it. And it's like, it makes no sense at all. This can be done a lot better way. It needs to be thought out better. Staff can get back at it with interfacing with all the people in this room. We can come to a better conclusion. There is no urgency that we have to approve this today on January 7th. We're all back from vacation. We get these notices here. Obviously, everybody's excited, fired up, mostly against it. You guys are trying to do the best that you can do with instruction from council, but council's got this thing on a fast track for God knows why, but let's put the brakes on it and let's just move slowly through it and figure out a better alternative than what we currently have here. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Smith. I'm the general manager of Owens Machine and Tool. We're at 561 North Cowan, a location that we've been at for 20 years. We're part of the Precision Aerospace Holdings Group. We participate in the nation's defense, and we're very passionate about what we do. I am not a land use attorney. I am not a realtor. I am not a developer. I'm an engineer. I would be much more comfortable talking to you about exo-atmospheric interception of intercontinental ballistic missiles and the logarithmic math that's required to do that than I am talking about this topic. But I am passionate about what we do. We have 100 employees in the Metroplex. About 30 of them are at Owens. We love our business. We love what we do for the country. We are concerned about the language here about the special use permitting because we are very active at the moment because of wars in the Middle East, wars in Ukraine. We will probably be expanding our business. We are hiring more people. We have been hiring all year. We have more land behind us. We are within 500 feet of residential uses. We are also directly against our front street. Our loading dock faces forward towards our front street. We have no room for a 50-foot buffer. We have no room. We could add a tree. We have a really nice oak in front, but we'll add a second oak. But we would have a hard time meeting requirements. We're light industrial, but we've had a hard time meeting requirements if we were to expand our business. So we would be back asking for a special use permit, and that makes everybody in our ownership group nervous. I'll be brief. I don't want to take up a lot of time. I'll just tell you massive concerns for us about how the language of this will actually be written, what will really be required of us when we go to expand. I spent a lot of time today on the phone with our CEO and our CFO and our lawyers who said, make it clear if we can't expand here, we'll end up expanding somewhere in the Metroplex. It may be in Irving, it may be at our facility in Flower Mound, it may be at our facility in Decatur. I mean, we have other options, but we would like to be expanding here, hiring people here, paying property taxes here. That's my ask. Don't make it impossible for us to do that. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Robert Allen with First Industrial Realty Trust. I'm the Regional Director for First Industrial. First Industrial owns 5 industrial buildings, and we have currently a 6th that's kind of in, being designed. The property's kind of south of Midway Road, east of Holford's Prairie, northeast side of Lewisville. Wasn't too long ago that I was in this room actually rezoning a large portion of that property, 83 acres of it. It's the initial property that we purchased, actually from agricultural open to light industrial, because that use was consistent with the future land use plan of Lewisville. And now I'm sitting here today because the proposed changes potentially, limit or eliminate really the uses that the 5 current buildings were originally designed for. They're warehouse distribution buildings, and that's really all that they are ever really going to be. The tenants that are in there today are all distribution with maybe some excess, some ancillary light manufacturing. And so, with the proposed changes as it's currently written, my understanding is that they would all become, legal non-conforming uses, which could be terminated at any time. The other thing is that as the tenants change, they move out. If I go to re-tenant it, depending upon the grandfathering concept, which expires if, the space sits vacant for 6 months, I effectively have buildings that I can't lease. I can't lease for warehouse distribution or for light manufacturing, which is what they were originally designed for. And so our values will be materially impacted. And as a lot of the other people tonight have mentioned, the SUP process is onerous. And in a market as competitive as DFW, as tenants are looking at potential options of where they could lease, as soon as they see the SUP process, there's another option that's similar that doesn't require it. They're going to move on. They're going to lease that. And so, long-term vacancy is going to increase. Values are going to decrease. And, hopefully, give some consideration, maybe put this process on hold until we can find some reasonable language to accommodate kind of the existing buildings. Because it seems like the intent is not to impact the existing buildings today, and it's really for redevelopment. But the language as it's currently written, my understanding is, would have significantly negative impact on our existing investments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mike Mahoney, and I own an Flint Industrial Zone property on Barfnick Lane, and I'm surrounded by SUP property, one of them being Republic Services, which is going to double in size when they combine with Waste Management. My concerns have been already vocalized, but more concerned about being able to sell the property to a developer or somebody that wants to develop into any of the other things which could devalue or not make the sale go through. The only criteria that I'm subject to is a mobile home park within 500 feet, and that my street's not developed, And so, most importantly, I think the language that to define the SUP is more important than anything. Not just a broad brush, as people have said, but to define it more clear, because I don't think, I've got trash trucks going around in circles, that my property would be subject to that type of denial for that type of SUP. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening, Council. Chris Scarborough, the name you could not pronounce.
Oh, please pronounce it so I know the correct.
It is Scarborough. Would you like a business card?
I couldn't actually read it, so.
I would.
It wasn't that hard.
Thank you. That would. That helps a lot. We'll get that into the public record correctly.
Thank you for your time this evening. I appreciate it. I have currently been renting space at 419 South Keeley for a little over 20 years. The quietly non-conforming verbiage is, I've heard a lot of people ask what it's all about. Well, in 20 years of being here, I tried to purchase the old hardware store and was denied because they wanted to turn it into a parking lot. You did, but it's not a parking lot now. Then I tried to purchase the bus barn, or actually it's not the bus barn, it was the, is it Payless? Payless. I tried to buy the Payless building, being here. I was told no, can't use it for what it is, no outside parking. What has it got? Anybody seen that? Outside parking. How can the city do this? It's with push through what we're doing now. I remember when all the houses were right here. I don't think any of y'all were here. I watched this building get built. I watched people get pushed out. I watched my friends who had businesses on Main get kicked out because you took over the streets, put in parking. It looks beautiful. Absolutely. Give you hands down. It looks really nice. Not as good as some other cities, but it's the best you could do. I could see that. But businesses got kicked out. Apartments went up. That's all it is. It's revenue. Consistent revenue. Well, you have to have it. You have to have it so every one of y'all have a check. I get it. It's business 101. But at what expense? I just asked you push this at least a couple months, read the verbiage. Because what's happening today will impact everybody in here at some point. Like the guys said behind me, they got buildings, they've got tenants, they're paying bills. This goes through, the next guy coming in might not be able to use it. They're going to sell that building, it's going to devalue, another apartment complex will go up. I think we ought to watch that. Think about everybody that's been in this room. I see some of my friends I've known for 30 years there. Don't push it. Let's look at it. Let's make it happen. That's it.
Paul Bosco, 4509 Mahogany Lane, Copper Canyon. I've owned businesses, properties in Lewisville since 1983. First of all, I've been on both sides of that desk. I've been on boards on the various Copper Canyon, Double Oak, studied for traffic control. I've been on P&Zs, I've been on councils. I don't envy your position tonight, but I thank you for listening to us. But please listen to everybody here, what they're saying. For whatever reason, there's usually more to the story than any of us know out here. By experience, I say that. This is being kind of fast-tracked for a reason. A piece of property someplace, something else that's coming in, I don't know what it is. That's my feeling, based again on my experiences. But if you cannot approve anything tonight because you don't know what you're approving. You don't have an idea. The there was a statement made 3 times in the presentation. We will change the language before we get to council. We will improve on what we're presenting here when we present it to council. Well, you can't approve what you don't know what you're approving. The conversations we're having tonight right now should be over with at this point when they say we're going to make changes to the language that we're asking you to approve tonight. That's simple. That's it. But that, as it may be, the blanket amendment doesn't fit all properties. Probably fits only a few select properties that are light industrial, larger properties, or in areas that don't fit light industrial more because of what else was developed around them. So you should select those properties, talk to those owners, do what you have to do to work with them, and make those properties fit the area. You can't make everybody that has light industrial require them to go through these changes. The biggest thing is, and I know it's been stated several times, tenants. We have tenants that come and go, maybe every 2 years, 3 years. We can't, and when they come and a tenant comes to our building, they're usually in need of a place a week, a month, but no more than that. They'll find someplace else before that. To get an SUP, it's probably a minimum of 2 months if everything goes really good. So there's no reason to fast track this thing, and you need to know what you're approving. If it comes down to nothing else, you should have the final language in front of you so you know exactly what you're approving and recommending to council. So I'm going to ask that you table this thing until the correct language is furnished to you to make an informed decision on our behalf, apparently. So thank you again for your time, being on that side of the desk, and listening to us.
I have one quick thing to say. This is not appropriate business literature, guys. This is not. This is not how you send out a notice. The city, if I need my grass cut on my lot, I get a Lewisville letter on Lewisville stationery explaining everything. This looks like junk mail. Our first response when we got this was to toss it aside as in the junk mail stack. Then it was either me or my wife looked at it closer and said, oh, this is from Lewisville. This is not appropriate literature for you guys to send out for notices. This right here will get you in a lawsuit going. You guys need to think about what you're doing and do it correctly, like business people. Thank you. That's all I have to say for this evening.
Last call. Anyone else needing to speak? Having no one come forward, I will close the public hearing. Yes, ma'am.
I understand what y'all are trying to do and fast tracking it, but my problem is this.
Wait, stop until you get to the microphone, please, so that we can hear you.
I just have a question.
And one second.
Excuse me, Chairman?
1 second.
Chairman, would you mind, you close the public hearing, would you mind reopening it so she may
That's
speak?
what I was getting ready to do. I need to reopen the public hearing, and then I will love to hear from you. I reopen the public hearing.
I understand that y'all trying to move everything fast track. We don't know why, and you're not gonna tell us why, but around this whole neighborhood, I've been here my whole life. I'm 51. I grew up here. I went to all the schools here, but we have several schools that are closing for 2026 and 25, 26. What are you gonna do with that property? We have several schools that are closing. They're rearranging children right now because they're the buildings. What are you gonna do with these children? You getting more and more people coming in from California, Florida, all these high-priced states. You're getting all these people coming in from them states. Where are you gonna put these people and these kids? We're not talking about like little kids, we're talking about elementary school kids. And they're coming with 7, 8, 9, 10 kids. And you're closing schools already? Not this year yet, but it'll be between now and next year. You're closing, I want to say 5 schools and some middle schools and some stuff in Flatman that you're closing schools. Why? But if you're going to do all that, then why don't you try to get some of that land and do what y'all need to do, the stuff that you're closing down, but we don't even know why you're closing schools down. No one's going to tell us that either. We're reshuffling kids around right now. I have several nieces and nephews that are being shuffled. Not yet, but between now and next year, they're going to be shuffled to different schools. They're closing the school down for me, Park. They're closing all these schools down there. Where are you going to place these kids? Where are they going to go? We have more kids and the population is getting so much bigger, but yet we're closing schools down. And yet we're trying to buy up land around everything else. What about homeowners? I don't have a homeowner. My mom, I have cousins that have them. I have a home. I'm getting calls, letters about my house. My mom's getting calls about her house, selling her house, her property on 635 Willow. Everybody's calling about their property. They want that. Why are y'all wanting to take stuff from people, whether they're black, white, Mexican, any color? Why are you trying to take people's land from them? Are y'all going to give us some money to get us a new home? What's $100,000? Is that not going to pay for my land? That's not going to pay for it. My grandma been in that land since the 70s and 80s and 90s. I grew up on that house, that street. But you go down there now, it's a desert town. You don't know what the hell you're looking at because everything has been taken over from all the industrial stuff. And then you're steady trying to buy up and you're saying people's taxes are behind it. My grandmother's taxes aren't. They're not. But y'all saying y'all want her land, but you only want to offer her $100,000. How is that going to buy her or my mother and her siblings a new land? What happens if we get in our houses that we got now and we have to go back to the old days? We got to go back down to Willow. We ain't got nowhere to go or stay. Are y'all going to help us find places? No. The homeless population is getting overrun here. Every time I get up, I go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. I see homeless people walking around. It's cold as hell outside. Where are you putting these homeless people? You said you was going to put them up there at Skyview. You didn't do that. You sold it to a church. The school behind me on Bel Air, that was a church. Y'all bought that, but you changed it to something else. Oh, you sold it to some Mexican people for a different church. Up the street from me on Bel Air, you're building houses and apartments right there. You're shutting us in. We can't even park and walk down our street without getting in a wreck with somebody because you can't see around because y'all got so much construction going on. That's a bad intersection on Bel Air. You can't see. And you want to put more houses, more apartments up there when you can't see already and you looking for accidents to happen. Accidents prone, Bel Air, all that you be having, all the wrecks and stuff. Because there's so much construction everywhere. People are getting pushed out of their neighborhoods. You're forcing them to go other places. You're forcing them to go to Dallas, Denton, wherever. You're forcing your own tenants to move to different states because of this fact, what y'all doing. But you don't want to give them but pennies. To me, that's pennies, $100,000. That's pennies to me. Don't matter if my grandma's land is like 4 or 5 acres. It don't matter. That's home. That's home. My mother and them had the blood and sweat for that land because y'all won't give it to us then because it was back in slavery. Y'all won't give it to us. We had to sweat for that. And now y'all want to take it. Why? Why are we taking things from people, whether you be black, white, orange, or purple? Why are we taking everybody's stuff? Can I come to your house and take your car from you? No, it's going to be a fight. You're going to call the police on me. Yours, same thing. Yours, same thing. Yours, too. I'm going to go to jail. Yours, I'm gonna go to jail. If I come to your house and take y'all stuff, I'm gonna go to jail.
Thank you so much for listening to my cousin.
Last call.
That's something else to think about.
close the public hearing. Again, I would like to thank all of you. It's nice to see faces in here. There are many nights we sit here and there's not a face out there besides us. So thank you all for coming and telling us what you want to hear. Commissioners? Questions, comments?
I'll go ahead and start and say I am not comfortable making a decision on this tonight. I live here. My husband works in a small business here. He's been here his whole life. I understand. I'm not paid. This is a volunteer position. I get it. I get it. I would like to get some grandfathering clarification and then the certificate of occupancy language a little solidified. And then also, I want to do some more research on this before I feel more comfortable going forward with this.
Madam Chair.
Before we make a formal motion.
Well, I'd like to say something first before. I also believe, Madam Chair, that we need to take some time to research this matter thoroughly before any decision is made. So I agree as well.
Please let us proceed. Thank you. Aaron?
I'm in agreement with my fellow two commissioners. I would like to also thank everybody who came here tonight. Like Madam Chair said, more times than not, we're speaking to empty rooms. We want to see you guys come out. We want you to tell us what you're feeling. Contrary to what some speakers said tonight, we are not heartless. We live in this community too. I've put 3 kids through LISD. I moved to Lewisville when I was 16 years old. I'm not 16 anymore, obviously. I care really deeply about this community. I wouldn't be sitting up here away from my family every, first and third Tuesday and many other days if I didn't care about what was happening. And we hear all sides of it. We go home and we get on social media and we get berated for only bringing in industrial and warehouses, and then we have to spend ad nauseum hours convincing people why warehouses are not the devil and why manufacturing is not evil and why those people deserve our consideration and respect also. And then we come in here and there's a perception out there that Lewisville sucks and doesn't care about anybody and is driving out the small businesses. Nothing could be farther from the truth. I go out of my way to support you guys. There's a lot of business owners in here whose names I'm familiar with that have supported my kids directly through the Lewisville High School Marching Band, very proud marching band family. I was band booster president for God knows more years than I care to admit. I see how you guys put money into our program, support our kids. Anytime we need donations, you guys are the people that we go to and you always come through. So I just want you to know that you are seen and you are heard. I agree with my commissioners that there's a lot of ambiguity going on here tonight from what we've heard. I don't feel comfortable moving forward with any type of approval without knowing what I'm voting on. I would like to see some clarification and really like the nitty gritty and a lot of the points that Ainsley said at the best. Like, I'm not even gonna bother, repeating everything because you already put it out there, but I think we need a lot of clarification on some major points here before I feel comfortable putting a yes on anything. And just wanted to say that.
Gentlemen?
No.
I will entertain a motion.
Okay. I move, Madam Chair, to table this public hearing for further review and consideration.
Second.
Motion by
Commissioners, I
Francesca.
just wanted to ask if there is a date certain that you would like to continue to. Our next meeting is on the 21st of January.
My response to that would be, when could we see language?
It would be in your packet that you received the
In
Friday
2
before the
weeks?
meeting. Yes.
Okay, so 2 weeks. Does that work?
And that
So
date
then I
is-
move to,
And that date is the 21st, Michelle, correct? Okay.
Okay.
Francesca, go ahead.
all right, then I move to table this public hearing for further review and consideration for January the 21st. Is that correct?
has a question first.
Just a point of clarification, if we need to have a more, if the information is provided, a more intensive legal review, will the city attorney be present? Can we ask deeper questions about the process and procedures at that point? Just to make sure, I heard several interpretations of state law in terms of notification and language. Is that something we can get more information on as well?
As far as the notification, that has already been met. I did want to clarify that since the public hearing was closed, you're tabling the item, but any item, any member of the public can speak on any item. So it wouldn't be a formal public hearing, but they would have the ability to speak. And again, any new language would appear in your packets the Friday before the meeting.
Okay.
That's right. Motion by Francesca, second by Ainsley. Motion carries 6-0. Oh, God, awfully quiet. Next order of business. Are there any announcements? Okay. Next order of business is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Francesca, second by Aram. We are adjourned.